Well, hello and welcome. Thanks for joining us today for Live from the Eagle's Nest here at the National Conservation Training Center near Shepherdstown, West Virginia. I'm Randy Robinson. Welcome to our special Earth Day edition of Live from the Nest. We'll have some very interesting videos of our young eaglet feedings and some nest action from the past couple weeks, plus a professional wildlife rehabilitator will join us to talk about her exciting work with bald eagles and other wild critters. But first, our featured video of the week. I think you'll enjoy this one. Deb Steck captured this video, and it's a pole vaulting bald eagle coming in. That's the male bringing in that stick, and maybe we could see that once again there. Melissa, if you could show it to us one more time. Here it comes. Watch it. It happens pretty quick. Pole vaulting. Yeah, and he cleared about 95 feet on that vault there. That's the height of the nest. And yeah, he was just bringing in a little bit of an unusually large stick on that one. So we got a little bit of a kick out of that, the pole vaulting eagle. Well, thanks very much to our partners, the Outdoor Channel, the Friends of the National Conservation Training Center, our production team here in the studio, Bald Eagles 101 Facebook group, and I wanted to make a special announcement about an update on the page. Deb Steck from Bald Eagles 101 compiled a nest history, a frequently asked questions, and a daily journal. Now you'll find all those right below the Eagle Cam video. If you scroll down, you'll see a link to resources, and you'll find the FAQs, the history, and the daily journal. Thanks again to Deb for, it's a lot of work, and so we appreciate all her efforts there, along with all the videos and photos that folks have been adding in all the answering of the questions. So we welcome all of our longtime viewers and all of our new viewers too. You can go ahead and send your questions at any time, and we'll get to as many as we can. While we're doing that, we wanted to give you an idea of location of the nest. And we've got a drone video here of the Potomac River. And you can see an island. And the drone is going over that island. This is a favorite fishing area for the bald eagles. There's a fairly shallow area, and the eagles often like to fish there. At this point, the camera's kind of moving upstream a little bit. You can see a little bit of the NCTC buildings through the woods in the background. And here's another view. This is looking downstream, down the Potomac River, and you can see that island, Shepherd Island in the middle. Actually, two little islands, but just below those islands, the river makes a big bend, and that's a favorite fishing area for the bald eagles. And we have a map here to show you as well. I'll give you an idea where we are in the eastern panhandle of West Virginia. We're about 70 miles upstream from Washington, D.C. You see the yellow star. That's the National Conservation Training Center. It's a beautiful campus along the Potomac River. And we've got a wide-angle view of the tree here, looking out from a lower camera. The whole tree is about well over 100 feet tall, probably over 100 years old. And you can see that big nest in the very top of the tree. That's been the home for this eagle pair for the past 20 years. So we're celebrating 20 years of the nest being there. So I want to say hello to Jackie from Sherwood, Oregon, Ron from Montana, Annette from Atlanta, looks like Kenneth from Vienna, Virginia, Teresa from Jacksonville, Tammy out in Lexington, Kentucky. We did see a wasp flying around a little bit earlier. It was kind of funny as we got started, right in front of the camera. Made it look a lot bigger than it really is. Paul from Maryland, another folk, M. Pavia from Bow, Washington. Colleen, not sure where Colleen's from. She's been with us many times before. Yep, Pam gives a 10 for that pole vault. Yep, that's a good one. Yeah, Deb is amazing. I would agree with that. So thanks for joining us today again, everybody. We've got a nice program lined up. Our eaglet is 18 days old today. It's hard to believe that 18 days ago it was coming out of that eggshell. And today it's already the size of a chicken. It's just unbelievable how fast they grow. And one thing they like to do this on these hot days, it's in the 80s today, is to stay in the shade. So the male or the female eagle will actually, if it's really hot, they'll spread their wings out and make an umbrella, a shade umbrella, like they do for the wind and the snow. So welcome again. You're looking at Live from the Eagle's Nest. Today we've got an eagle rehabilitator with us, and she'll be describing her work and what to do if you encounter injured wildlife. But first we'll look at a little bit about the eagle. If he wants to come out, he or she, we don't know the sex at this point, if she comes out here. Go ahead and send any questions in that you have. I think we do have a question from earlier in the chat. It was Stephanie from Brussels, Belgium, asked how many eagles have, how many eggs have there been and how many have fledged over the years? Well, Stephanie, over the 20-year period, we've had 42 eggs laid, and we've had, out of those 42 eggs laid, 25 juvenile eagles have flown off or fledged in mid-June. That's pretty good. That's a 60% fledge rate, and hopefully by this June, we'll see this little eaglet, now 18 days old, add to those numbers. But just for perspective, in 2006, and again in 2008, we had 3 eggs laid, 3 eggs hatched, and all 3 birds fledged. So each year and each nest is a little different. I know there's a nest not too far from here, the Dulles Greenway nest, that does have 3 birds in it this year. So thanks for joining us all the way from Brussels, Stephanie. Great question. And now I'd like to introduce Jessica Anderson. She is a wildlife rehabilitator. And Jessica, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, we'll be coming back to some more questions and the live camera. But right now, thanks a lot for joining us, Jessica. As our special guest here on our Earth Day program, you manage the rehab program at the Blue Ridge Wildlife Center. That's about 30 miles south of here in Boyce, Virginia. So if you have any questions for Jessica, please put those in the chat. Thanks for joining us, Jessica.
Yeah, happy to be here.
So you are a certified wildlife rehabilitator. Can you tell us what that means and what you do?
So a certified rehabilitator just means that I have passed a test on the International Wildlife Rehabilitation Council's website, but I'm also licensed here in Virginia as well to rehabilitate wildlife, both at my home and here at the facility that I work at. And basically what we do is we take in injured, ill, and orphaned wildlife to rehabilitate and wait until they are grown enough, competent, healthy enough to release them back into the wild.
And have you worked with large birds of prey like eagles before?
Yes, so I have been working with eagles since I got here in 2015, so about 8 years now. We tend to get about a dozen, maybe 2 dozen eagles every year. Generally speaking, we're going to be seeing similar injuries that we see in other raptors like red-tailed hawks, eagles, or owls. We see a lot of trauma from either hit by car injuries. We see a lot of lead poisoning in our eagles. They are opportunistic, so they are going to feed on carcasses, and often we see this mirroring Virginia's deer hunting season. So when hunters use lead ammunition and they shoot deer and they leave it, or leave gut piles and things like that, the eagles and other birds of prey like vultures, hawks, things like that will come in and consume that taunt that's in that gut pile that's left there, and that will cause lead poisoning. So more than 80% of our adult eagles that we take in do have discomfort, and this can also lead to them getting injured, being hit by cars more often, or just getting into other trouble, like not being able to defend themselves during territory disputes during breeding season like this.
Well, thanks for that info. It's some amazing work that you do there. So wanted to say hello. Kara Evans says hello from New River Primary School, pre-K, pre-kindergarten down at New River, and I know they have a wildlife rehab facility down there. It's called Three Rivers Avian Center. They do a lot of good work. So thanks for joining us, Kara. So Jessica, here's a question from Pam. What is your most common patient at the Blue Ridge Wildlife Center?
So just strictly number-wise, our most common patient is probably going to be Eastern Cottontails. We take in over 450 cottontails generally every year. But that's because we go through baby season here. We get a ton of them during, right now, March through September. So it's no surprise that they kind of top our charts.
Lots of bunnies there, I'm sure, throughout April and May and June. Yeah. Well, thank you, Jessica. We're going to come back to you in just a little bit. So if you've got questions for Jessica Anderson, our professional wildlife rehabilitator, hold on to those for just a minute. And we're going to take a look at the live nest here and see what we've got going on for a minute. Looks like the 18-day-old eaglet is just chilling out there in the shade, taking it easy. This is what they do best. They eat, they sleep. They eat, they sleep. And this one's getting well fed because he's an only child, or she's an only child. So food is not a problem. Just saw that wasp fly in front of the camera there again. But you can see how big that nest is. It's about 8 feet across. And by the way, a female eagle's wingspan is about 8 feet. So when you see them land, their wings from tip to tip will pretty much go across the nest. It's about 5 feet deep and it's 20 years old. So every year they add sticks to it. So that's part of their annual ritual, as we saw in that beginning, the pole vaulting video with the stick coming in. And Lisa says, hello from Honolulu, Hawaii. Thanks for joining us. And so we're back in our conversation with Jessica Anderson of the Blue Ridge Wildlife Center. I just visited your center just last Friday. Jessica, it's a great facility. I've taken a couple of songbirds there over the years, and always grateful for the expert medical care and veterinary care that they get there. So Jessica, what should people do if they encounter what appears to be an injured wildlife?
So our biggest thing that we try to stress to people is if you find an animal that you think is injured or in need, you should definitely call your local rehabilitators right away first, if that's possible. So right now is the best time to kind of find who's local to you, save their phone numbers in your phone so that you're not scrambling or panicked when that happens. But that way we can help assess your specific situation and make sure that the animals that you're seeing or finding actually need assistance, especially during this time during baby season when there's a lot of babies out and there's a lot of different animals out, and people are out enjoying the nice weather. Sometimes you might find animals that you think need help, like a fledgling bird who can't fly, when in reality that is part of their natural life cycle. So we can help work with you to assess the situation, see if that's normal for that species or that individual. And if that is something that needs to be contained or transported or given assistance, we can then help facilitate that in the safest way possible, by advising you, what kind of PPE to wear, what kind of cleaner to use, and just how best to approach that situation so that you're safe and the animal's safe.
Oh, that was quite a large beaver there. I don't know if folks could see it well enough to identify that being a beaver that you had on a ventilator. But what did that guy weigh?
He was close to 40 pounds. That was definitely a workout getting him up onto the table there.
Wow. That is a large beaver. So we've got a couple questions here in the chat room. Tammy asks, when will you be able to know if the hatchling is male or female? Probably not until mid-June, and then it's just a guess, Tammy. If it's a larger bird, then we're going to guess it's a female. But the only way to tell for sure is to do a blood test, and we don't capture these birds. We don't band them. They're totally wild birds, so we'll probably never know for sure. But the only way, like I said, is if it's a larger bird. Like 2 years ago, we had a large young one. She was actually bigger than the male by mid-June. And so we could assume she was female, because females are usually about a third larger than the male. And Jackie is asking, do you worry about nest collapse? Have you seen a collapse at another nest recently? Unfortunately, Jackie, yes. I actually, not personally, but I saw it on video. About 2 weeks ago, there were storms in the Midwest, and a nest was blown out of the tree, bald eagle's nest that is, in Minnesota, and another one in Wisconsin, I believe. One was on a wildlife refuge, the Upper Mississippi Refuge. I just heard about that one. But yeah, they got heavy with snow, and when a nest gets loaded down with snow or ice, sometimes they can actually cause a tree to be top heavy. We don't worry about it too much here with this tree because it's big and strong, but just as a precaution, a few years ago we did build a little sort of a crude man-made platform about 30 feet below the nest. So if the nest did collapse or fail or fall, it would give that crude platform we put in there would give the bald eagles a little bit of a head start. They would probably do it on their own anyway, but we just wanted that thinking it might be able to capture some of that nest. And it is 20 years old. The one that blew out of the tree in Michigan or Minnesota was 20 years old and big and heavy, about the size of this nest. And just ironically, it had a young eaglet in it that was born almost at the same time as our eaglet here at NCTC, within hours of each other. Unfortunately, it died when the nest collapsed. The nest fell on top of the young eaglet, and it didn't survive, but the two adults did survive, and apparently they're okay, and they'll go on to build another nest next year. So thanks for those questions. Let's see. Here's a question for Jessica from Jackie. Jessica, when you bring an animal in, does it go into quarantine, or what is the process?
That's a good question, and that definitely depends on the species. So for animals that we are worried about pretty contagious diseases like rabies, or right now, especially highly pathogenic avian influenza, we do take them into a quarantine or isolation area. So we have 3 separate rooms for our high-risk HPAI patients right now, so that within a group, we can keep them isolated. We do send out testing weekly, and that way, once we can confirm they're negative, then that group stays together and gets moved out of isolation. So that any new coming or incoming patients after that group has been tested can go into a separate isolated area. And we do have, foot baths in place. We're wearing gowns, we're wearing masks, we're wearing PPE, because that is potentially zoonotic towards people.
And Jessica, are there special things to consider when dealing with injured raptors like bald eagles?
Yes, for sure. As you mentioned earlier, these eagles are very large birds, but the same as with any bird of prey, there's a lot of safety issues to be concerned about. You can see in this picture, I'm wearing full arm gauntlets that go above my elbow because these guys have huge, strong talons. Even when they're down and injured, they are going to try and defend and protect themselves from predators, which is exactly what they consider us to be. Obviously, if you have to contain a raptor that's injured or down that you're concerned about, making sure that you have some sort of PPE like leather welding gloves, or even just a towel and a net so that you don't physically have to come in contact with that bird. Keeping their face covered can help keep them calm and also is protective, especially with eagles, because as you can see, they are quite large. So when I'm holding them, their face is right here near my face. So keeping that head and that neck under control or just covered so they can't see me can help prevent serious injuries from biting or taloning or anything like that. Again, definitely recommend calling your local rehabilitator before attempting capture if possible, just to keep you guys safe and to help keep that bird safe.
And I notice you have in the photo that we're looking at, I guess that's an eagle there, but it has a cover over its eyes. Does that help keep it calm?
Yes, especially for diurnal birds like eagles, hawks. It really helps them, falcons, to have this is a hood. So falconers use these to keep their birds calm. Once you get them dark and they're no longer receiving that visual stimulation, they do tend to relax a lot easier. It's a little less stressful for them, especially for these birds that are very stressful when in captivity. So we try to reduce that as much as possible. But it also helps, again, keep us safe. So he can't look around, see where I'm at, and try to bite me or react to any of that visual stimulation.
And Tammy is asking, are eagles susceptible to avian bird flu?
Yes, they are. So right now, all raptors, we've been finding, or at least we haven't, but the community in general has been finding that any raptor can be susceptible. We generally see them come down with illnesses and fatality if they are contracting it. However, it's mostly waterfowl and shorebirds that are spreading it because they can carry the virus without actually showing symptoms. So especially with bald eagles or larger raptors that are feeding on waterfowl like geese or ducks or scavenging those carcasses that may die while carrying the virus, that can easily be spread to them. So it is definitely a concern.
Well, thanks, Jessica. Your work at the Blue Ridge Wildlife Center is awesome. What made you go into this kind of work, and any advice for young people?
So I just knew growing up that I wanted to work with animals. I didn't really know what capacity, and I wasn't even aware of rehabilitation as a career until my senior year of college, where I did get an internship with a rehabilitation center, and I just kind of fell in love with it from there. My greatest advice to people who are looking to get into wildlife rehabilitation is just get as much experience as you can, whether that's through internships, volunteering at your local facility or with your local rehabilitators. Getting that experience is going to teach you so much. And while college can be really important and give you a lot of context to that information, I've learned probably 85% of everything that I needed to know on the job or through internship experiences like this. So the more experience you can get, the more likely you're going to be able to get a paid position, or it just lets you see and get a kind of toe in, make sure this is the type of career that you're actually interested in.
Well, it's awesome work, Jessica. Here's a couple more questions for you from Jackie. Have you ever been bitten or attacked at your facility while trying to help an eagle?
I have been taloned once while I was on a rescue, and that was entirely my fault because I didn't have those big, long eagle gauntlets. I was in a rush. I just grabbed some leather gloves and said, that should be fine. But that's kind of a humbling experience for me that now I can use to educate other people and be like, even if you're in a rush, make sure you have the right equipment. And it was not a great experience, but thankfully I came out of it without any sort of long-term injuries or anything like that. But we really do have to, we try to restrain these animals as best we can because we are not their friends. So they are trying to defend themselves or get away from us when we are handling them. So we do have, specific techniques and protective equipment that we wear when we're handling these animals to try and keep us protected and safe.
And Pam is asking, do you see eagles with lead poisoning? I know it's an issue for California condors.
Yes, yeah. So about a little over 80% of all of our adult eagle patients that we get in have some sort of lead poisoning in their body. And as we know, there is no safe level of lead in the blood. Even low levels that we may not consider bad enough to treat can still cause potential, lapse in judgment, or prevent them from making good decisions like when to fly across a field or engage in offensive behaviors. So, yes, it's definitely an issue here in Virginia.
Well, Jessica, I know you've got a very busy day. Every day is busy for you there at the Blue Ridge Wildlife Center. So thanks again so much for joining us on this Earth Day edition of our show. And thanks to all the staff and the vets there at Blue Ridge Center for all the great work that you do.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was great to be here.
Take good care. And we'll come back here. We've got some more questions coming in. We've got some videos to show you before we wrap things up today. So we've got a question from a YouTube viewer. How long has this eagle pair been together? Well, this particular pair we see here since 2018, but our original pair came to this nest in 2003. So they started building the nest 20 years ago in 2003. Then in 2011, the original male got chased away, probably in a fight with another eagle. Then in 2018, the original female got chased away. She was sitting on the nest middle of the night and was attacked by another, probably female eagle. We can never say for sure, but we looked for her, but we didn't see her after that. So hopefully she was okay, but she may have been some folks think she was pretty badly injured. I did look for her in Maryland and in West Virginia. We didn't see anything of the original female. So this pair that we're looking at now has been together since 2018. And they've had 7 young ones. So this is E7, or eaglet number 7 is what we're identifying the young one as. So thanks for that question. And so, Jessica was talking about lead poisoning. Just recently in Florida, we saw a young eaglet taken in for rat poisoning. It had apparently eaten a rat, and last year, unfortunately, 2 birds died in that nest. That was down near Captiva, Sanibel Island in Florida. 2 young eaglets died from apparently eating rats that had been poisoned with rat poison. So that's another problem for birds, and not just birds, but mammals, coyotes, mountain lions, fox, anything that would eat a rat or a mouse that's been poisoned. So that's unfortunate as well. So Annette is asking, where's the Blue Ridge Wildlife Center located? Annette, it is about it's near Boyce, Virginia, Millwood, Boyce, Virginia. It's about 30 miles south of Shepherdstown, but it's in Virginia. So here's our video of early morning, some calling out there and a nice sunrise coming up. This is the eaglet as it looked on the 29th of March, so just a few days old, and you can see how amazingly fast they grow. Just a little guy there, and about maybe 3 days old. Getting some of its first meals. Now that other egg, by the way, didn't hatch. That was probably, we think, the first egg that was laid, and it wasn't viable. We can't say why. Just didn't hatch. Some years we've had 3 eggs and all of them hatch. Last year we didn't have any eggs. This year we were lucky to get 2 eggs and 1 hatch. So we're always happy with those that do hatch. Jackie's asking, is that a call for Smitty, the male? Maybe she needs a break. Yeah, she often does that, Jackie. She'll put her head back. Both male and female will do it. They'll put their head back, give that loud chortle, and that's the call for, hey, I need a break. I need to stretch my wings, get something to eat. So you can see that little one there is just a few days old, and it's already strong enough to set up. But let's see, our next video we've got coming up is the changing of the guard. So The bird that was in the nest, I believe it was the female, she saw the male coming from a distance. You know, eagles have very good eyesight. She went ahead and took off, and here comes the male in to take over. He's usually often down at the river fishing, and this was from the 30th, so again, just a few days old. Now we have another video coming up from Deb Steck. All these videos were from Deb, by the way, that she posted onto the Outdoor Channel website or onto YouTube. Here's a nice shot of the little guy. You can see a little bit of a crop there, that little bulge on his neck. That means he's been eating good. And a little hard to see, but there's a little bit of a yolk scar from where he was attached to the yolk of the egg. And it's almost hard to see here, but they have a little bump on their beak. It's called an egg tooth. And that's how they get their way out of the shell. Coming out of the shell can take 12 hours or more. So it's not an easy process just getting out of the shell in the first place. But once they do get out, it's amazing how fast they grow. So our next video is, you can see the little guy eating there. Here we are with that pole vaulting stick. We'll do that one again. That was a good one. And then let's see, we've got April 5th. Is that what we see here? This is, no, that's again the stick here. Let's go to April 5th when our eaglet was about 10 days old, if we can find that next video. And you can see they continually bring sticks in, dry grass. That's just sort of part of their habit. And building up the rails. Here we go on April 5th. And look at how much bigger the eaglet is. By the way, we do see a couple of loose feathers every now and then in the nest. We think the female is molting. And so you might see a loose feather, but there's a nice big fish in. They've been finding some big fish in the Potomac River, quite a few red horse suckers. And that's a nice big one. They have red fins, but yeah, so food has been plentiful. And there's the eaglet at 10 days old. Look at look at those talons, how fast those talons grow and how strong they get in just a short period of time. The fish is high protein. They got their little wings already are about at least 4 inches long, maybe 5. And those talons and wings grow a lot faster than the rest of their body. And the next video we have is a beautiful sunrise here recently. That was April 9th that Deb got a beautiful sunrise with the fog in the background there. We've got a few more questions in. We can take a look at this video while I look at the questions. Will the adult eagles be teaching the eaglet to feed itself at some point? Yes, the key to that is the eaglet has to be strong enough in its legs and talons to be able to stand on the fish or other game or other food and actually pull pieces off. And so right now it's not strong enough, so the adults have to stand on the food, pull a piece off and feed it. But in about a few weeks or a month, the eaglet ought to be able to be strong enough to start eating on its own once it gets strength in those legs. And Jackie said, I've seen them break a stick or branch with their beaks, so very sharp. Yeah, I know Jackie's out in Sherwood, Oregon, not far from, we have a refuge out there called Tualatin National Wildlife Refuge, and I believe there's a pair of bald eagles there. But yeah, they'll fly over and look for a dead stick and break it off as they fly with their talons, or move it around with their beak, or even try to break it with their beak. So a lot of work goes into the nest. Just saw our wasp fly by there again. I hope that wasp is not intending to build a nest in front of our camera. That wouldn't be good, would it? So let's see, we're getting close to being out of time here today, but If we've got any last questions, go ahead and put those in. But I will say, join us again next time for Live from the Eagle's Nest. That'll be on Wednesday, April 26th. A little change of day. It'll be on Wednesday next time, April 26th. And our guest will be Michelle Smith. She's going to talk about the importance of wetland habitat for ducks, geese, and the predators like bald eagles. We'll talk with artist Michelle Smith about the Junior Duck Stamp Art Program and how students can start preparing for next year's contest. So that's again at 1 p.m. Eastern Time on April 26th. And so thanks so very much for tuning in with us today, whether you saw it on live stream, YouTube, Facebook, and we'll see you next time on Live from the Eagle's Nest.